Hi, welcome to the FundTQ webinar series with Startup India. I am the CEO of FundTQ, which is a digital funding assistance platform, which helps small and medium enterprises pick and choose right investors across the globe. It also provides a valuation tool to know the actual business worth of your idea. From Startup India, we have Aastha Grover, who heads the Startup India team at Invest India. Those who don't know, Startup India is an initiative of the Government of India launched way back in 2016 to build a strong startup ecosystem in the country. Aastha, with her team, has worked along with north of 30,000 startups and acted as the largest virtual incubator team with over 400,000 users. She also drives internationalization of startups in Asia Pacific, Europe, and the US. Welcome, Aastha, to the masterclass. Now, we would like to know more about Startup India initiative from you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Anshul. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you to all the lovely audience for joining us today. I'm going to be talking about how the Startup India movement has changed the landscape of India. How from where we started to where we are today. And for all those budding entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who already have an existing startup, what are the benefits that you can derive out of the Startup India action plan, and what is it that you can look forward to while working at your startup. So without much ado, let me just quickly run you through the few slides that I have prepared for all of you that would give you this quick overview. Anshul, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, super. So starting with what Anshul was also referring to, Startup India was launched way back in 2016 by the Honorable Prime Minister. When the action plan was announced, it was built on 3 pillars that you can see on your screen. But let me tell you the philosophy or the rationale why, the government decided that it is now time to support the startups in the nation. While startups were already existing in the economy way back from 2000s, but it was in 2016 that we realized, that we came up with a dedicated action plan and incentives for the ecosystem. As you all know, startups are very agile. They are the next big job creators. On an average, every startup creates 12 jobs, and these are only the direct jobs that I'm talking about. In countries like US, Israel, Europe, the maximum number of new jobs are being created by startups. If you look at tech disruptions or innovations, look at the companies which are there as a part of the Fortune 500 listed back in 1960, 60% of those companies do not even exist now. And that's because of every company needs to disrupt and innovate. It is easier by a startup because of their agility in nature that they can disrupt faster, and that's the power that they're trying to add. The third and the most important pillar is wealth creators. Today, we know that there are about 30 plus unicorns in the ecosystem, creating an valuation of over $100 billion. If you look at traditional companies, you name it, Wipro, TCS, they took about 30 to 40 years to hit the first $1 billion revenue. But you look at startups, in less than 3, on an average, it has taken them 3 to 5 years to hit the first $1 billion valuation. So that's the power of startups that you're talking about, and here's what the government has laid out for them. To give you a quick snapshot of how the ecosystem looks today, I've been a founding member of the startup ecosystem team, as I've been a part of the ecosystem from 2016. I've seen the ecosystem grow from just Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore to today, the non-metropolitan cities as well. 45% of the startups today are coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Of course, we are a young nation, and the average age of founders stands somewhere around 31 years. We have over 30,000 startups that have got recognition under the department. When we started, there were just 4 states which had a dedicated startup policy. Today, 29 states and union territories have a dedicated startup policy, and I would urge you all to look at these policies of your respective states for different benefits across funding, across marketing subsidies, across going to international events and the likes. Our team over here has helped the first startup from Lakshadweep get recognized, thereby covering all the union territories. We have one startup at least in 80% of the total districts of India, and that's what the heat map represents over here. Moving on, just to give you a flavor of how the sector landscape has changed. If you look at, very predictable enough, the highest share of startups have been from IT, health, and education scale. Given the COVID landscape, health has obviously gone up and is expected to boom further. If you look at the last side, the right hand side of the data, these are the fastest growing sectors that the Startup India recognition database saw. Not surprising again, technology is the base for all these startups right now, and leveraging technology, we're seeing over 100% growth in sectors like aeronautics and defense, construction. Interestingly, I've still let travel and tourism be up there because I wanted to show the trend before COVID. Travel and tourism was one of the first, one of the five growing sectors, and the next sector in line was surprisingly matrimony. But I felt that let me show you that travel and tourism was going good enough, and now this is the sector that would see the impact of COVID, and it will take some time to revive. If you look at the sunrise sectors, we find that these are the sectors where investors have an appetite to fund, but they are unfunded so far. So the percentage of funded startups out of these sectors are less, and this is where we are seeing more major traction. We are seeing major investment activity as well. So fintech, health tech, enterprise, and retail tech are the sectors. An interesting fact is again that 18% of all these startups are now leveraging deep tech, and what we've seen is an interesting growth among these startups as well. About almost 100% growth in startups leveraging this. Blockchain per se has seen 100% funding growth over the last 3 years as well. AR, VR, big data, as they say, data is the new gold mine, and IoT. Okay, so what is it? How do you define a startup in India? This definition per se is what the Ministry of Commerce under the Government of India has set to recognize startups. There are 4 key elements. One is, what entity type are you? So what we encourage people is to form themselves as a private limited company, limited liability partnership, or registered partnership. A one-person company is also eligible to be recognized. However, from the point of view of tax exemptions, which is one of the incentives under the initiative, we encourage companies to be either private limited or LLP, as registered partnership is not allowed to be, to get the exemption from tax benefits. An entity should not more than be 10 years old and should not exceed revenue of 100 crores in any given year. And the 4th element is the subjective element that we have, where we say that a startup is an entity that is working towards innovation, either product or process, and it works towards or it works towards scalability, job, or wealth creation. So if you think you meet any of the 4 criterias, from the nature of activity, you must apply in either of this entity form for recognition. How do you apply that? You have to just visit our website, www.startupindia.gov.in. It's a fairly simple process to do. Okay, so it's an online application form. You have to fill in your documents. You have to complete the application with your product details, what you are doing. Who are the team members? Do you have any IP or patent in your name? It's not a mandatory field, but more details you fill in, the stronger your application will be. The easier it will be for us to evaluate your application and grant you the recognition. If your application is complete, it takes only about 24 to 48 hours for us to approve it. And post that, you will have, you will receive an acknowledgement email saying that you have been recognized as a startup under DPID with a unique DPID number that would be given to you. At this stage, I would also like to just mention that it is a fairly simple process to make this form, to fill this form. If you are a startup who has a company registered or incorporated already, you can do it all by yourself without any external help. All you need to upload is your business plan or your pitch deck, any details about your startup. But the only mandatory document required to be filled is your incorporation certificate. So that's all that it takes. Just visit our website and you can get recognized. What is in it for you to recognize is what would be covered in the next section. If you look at how the landscape has changed and what are the incentives specifically available as a part of the Startup India Action Plan, are these four benefits, starting with the first, this government procurement. If you look at it, by the nature of startups, innovation does not form a part of usual tenders that government authorities come out with, or or central or state government departments come out with. So and usually tenders have this clause of an entity should have this much of prior experience, this much of prior turnover, or and the requirement to submit an earnest money deposit as well. With the Startup India action plan and with modifications in the GFR, the General Financial Rules norms, procurement has been simplified for startups. They have been exempted from the requirement of prior experience, prior turnover, and the requirement to submit EMD for all procurement tenders by central government and central public sector undertakings. So if you're a startup applying to a central government or CPSU tender, you can show this notification, which again is available on our website, and claim this exemption if it's still a part of the tender. Moving on to the second benefit. We understand that startups are unique in nature. They are evolving. They have, sometimes the uniqueness needs to be patented as well. And with that thought, we have provided 3 incentives under patent. One is you get 80% rebate on your application fees, the application filing fees for patent. Second is that you can put your application in a fast track mode. So if in your application you specify you're a DPIT recognized startup, your application goes through a separate route of fast track mode. On an average, if it takes a regular company 5 to 7 years to get the patent exemption, if you're a startup, you can get within 1 to 3 years patent exemption. And the fastest that we've done so far is about 81 days. So this is a super, great incentive for the fact that a lot of times funding is also dependent on the grant of patent to your organization. Third is that there is a panel of facilitators impaneled by the Government of India to help you file this patent fees. If you may know that, it is a costly process to impanel a vendor to file this patent form for any startup or any organization. So the reimbursement fees of these patent facilitators is borne by the central government, and the list of these available, is segregated by location and by the areas of interest, and is available on our website as well. So I think for anyone applying for patent, you must avail of this scheme as well. Third is the incentive of tax benefit. We all have realized that initially startups are struggling to make profits, and once they start doing so, we want them to flow back the profit back into their business and save and focus on the core job. That's why income tax exemption for a period of 3 consecutive years out of a block of 10 years is now available to startups, and a separate interministerial board sits for examining these tax applications from the recognition database that we have. The fourth incentive under the action plan is compliance regime. It is our belief that a startup should focus on its core job of doing a business, and therefore we want to enable ease of doing business for startups by making self-certification on major laws that apply to any startup. So across 6 environment and 3 labor laws, a startup can simply self-certify that yes, I'm complying with these laws, and no physical inspection or no other documentation is expected to be done here. So these are the benefits that are specifically available for startups under the action plan. We've been often asked, how about funding? What are the funding incentives available? As most of you may already know, a 10,000 crore fund of funds was established by the government as a part of this action plan. It is a fund that has to be exhausted by March 2025. How this fund works is that you have to understand that the government is into the, our job as government entity is to make available this pool of capital for entrepreneurs and to, maximize this capital available. We aren't in the business of managing funds. So we have an entity, the Small and Industrial Development Bank of India, SIDBI, that manages this fund for the government of India. What SIDBI does is that it invests a maximum corpus of about up to 25% into the fund size of a venture capital who wants to invest in startups. Now, let me give you an example. If I am a VC ABC, I come to SIDBI that I am looking for, I'm mobilizing investments to be invested into startups. SIDBI, let's say, can invest up to 25 crore of this 100 crore fund of the VC. Of the 25 crore which SIDBI has invested from the government kitty, 50 crore will be invested in DPIT eligible startups. And the remaining 75 crore of the 100 crore fund is what the investors have to raise from outside. So if you see, it is a catalyzing effect which this fund is trying to bring about. One, by putting only up to 1/5 of this fund size, I'm getting more investments into the ecosystem. So if you look at from the SIDBI investment of 3,700 crores so far, 25,000 of corpus has been available for investments in startups, a catalyzing effect of almost 6x. Second, the amount that I am putting as a government entity into the VCs, 2x of that amount has to go in DPIT eligible startup. So that is the mobilizing and the catalyzing effect of this fund of funds. 53 venture capital funds have got funding or investments from SIDBI so far, and the list of all these VCs is available on SIDBI's website. 342 startups have got this funding so far, raising again about 3,700 crores from this contribution. So that was all. I think I've clarified on the fund of funds. If you need any more details, happy to do so. Moving on to the next benefit, or how do you there is so much of information that exists out there about startups in general. When we are starting, we are overwhelmed with where is it that we should look for information. I have an idea, what do I do next? I come from a tier 3 city where I do not have access to a mentor or an investor. How do I grow? So, keeping all these questions in mind, keeping, all the queries that we used to receive earlier back in 2016, we decided to set up a virtual hub, which is our website, www.startupindia.gov.in. It acts as the largest virtual incubator. And there are three key things that it does. One is it provides you all the information that you need to start your business. You can get ideas on this website. Even if you do not have an idea, just go to the idea bank and see what is it that I can work on if you're really interested to do a startup. If you already have an idea and you need to convert your idea into reality, there are toolkits, there are templates, there are resources, there are learning and development modules that you undertake, and from just with your idea, a business plan will be created and it will give you a step-by-step guide on how to go about this. If you need to connect with mentors or investors, or let's say incubators or accelerators around you, the portal is built on a gamification model, which means I have to just create a profile, and I go to my profile basis, location, basis sector. I can filter a mentor near me. I can filter a mentor as an area of my interest, and I can send them a connection request. It works like a mini LinkedIn per se. You send them a connection request. Once that request is accepted, you can take that conversation forward. Happy to say that all the offerings on the portal are pro bono. So all the mentors have offered to support on a pro bono basis, and over 3,000 engagements are, or these connections are made every quarter. The third incentive that is available through this portal is access to corporates that are providing that are looking at a innovation pipeline from the pool of startups that we that are there on the website. So a lot of time corporates host their programs looking for innovations in a particular sector, or looking for specific solutions to the problems that they're facing. All these programs, all these corporate connects are made again online through this website. The website also offers you free cloud credits, free legal advisory, free telephony services. A host of bunch of these suites, toolkits are also available for any user who registers on this website. So I think a host of benefits are available for you. Even if you do not get recognition, just create your profile and get access to all these free resources. Like I mentioned before, right? When we started, there were only 4 states with a dedicated startup policy. Today, we have 29 states and UTs. The list is out there. All these policies are also summarized with the fiscal and non-fiscal incentives for startups in a very simplified and easy to use manner on our website, startupindia.gov.in. Just have a look, and just apply to the state incentives as well. Sometimes there's special incentives for women entrepreneurs. There are loan subsidies. There are There are states like Kerala that take startups, or they give travel subsidies or free paid trips to international market access programs. Orissa gives you stipend on co-working spaces, free co-working spaces out there. So a lot of these schemes are available under policies of states, and one must check them out as well. If you're a women entrepreneur out there, this program is for you. So calling out to all the women entrepreneurs to look at this capacity development program that has been specially designed and hosted by the Ministry of Commerce, DPIIT. It's called WING, Women Fly Together. Through these workshops, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a pan-India movement where we are providing incubation, mentorship, and business support to women entrepreneurs. These are going to be a mix of physical and virtual workshops, free of cost to the entrepreneurs. They are amazing partners that are hosting this workshop and providing great content. At the end of this workshop, you will get pitching opportunities, you will get mentorship opportunities, and you will also get free resources and toolkits as a part of this program. All the information about these programs, again, can be found on our website. What we've seen is that while we've so far talked about benefits that are available from ideation to growth stage startup, but if you're a startup that is in a scale up stage and is looking to expand internationally or globally, or is looking to find clients from outside, or any technology that is of interest from these regions that are out there, how Startup India helps with international market access is 3 ways. One, there are trips that the government of India sponsors and selects startups to provide them a showcase opportunity in international events that are of great repute. So, for example, every year we've been taking about 20 to 30 startups to Slush, which is sort of the largest startup festival in Finland. We've been to Portugal Web Summit in the past. We've taken them to Stockholm, Sweden Tech Fest, and some of these global events. Recently, we went to the Germany Tech Fest as well. So all these programs and call for applications are hosted again through the website, and in a very transparent and fair manner, we select from the pool of startups that applies to these programs. Second is, with the countries that you see out there on your screen, these 10 countries are where we have a specific bridge in place. What a bridge actually does is it is a soft landing platform on our website, which has a partner from that country who could help us navigate that ecosystem. So for example, with the Indo-Japan hub, we have Jetro as a partner who would help for any query that a startup has with the Japanese area or investments. And we pass on these queries to them, and they handle the startup with resolution of these queries, with finding them or helping them navigate that ecosystem. Likewise, from a Japanese entrepreneur looking to enter into India market, Startup India acts as the first point of contact or the bridge between these two nations. We have a partner in all these countries that we have mentioned, and these partners help answer startup queries and help them find potential business opportunities as well. Here's a case study like I was mentioning. When the Indo-Japan Startup Hub was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister again, it was launched by both the Prime Ministers of the nation. SoftBank came forward to, as a part of this platform, saying that I'm looking for the best, leading startups in face recognition, cybersecurity, machine learning, predictive analytics, and AI. About 300 startups had applied for this program, and they selected one startup and gave them a cash grant, not even equity, a cash grant of $50,000. So that's the power of these platforms, and that's how corporates, investors use this platform to find the best innovations from the pool that they find. Moving on, like I mentioned earlier as well, there are 3 ways in which a corporate wants to engage with startup. One is that they want to know of the best innovations available for their sectors. Second, they come up with a very specific problem and are looking for solutions. Third, they want to fine-tune a solution to better meet their needs. So apart from providing a pilot order, they want the solution to be, ready to be fit with their business. So they club their plan with an incubation or an acceleration opportunity as well. These are some of the examples of corporates that you see out on the screen with whom we have worked in the past, and over about 250 startups have benefited from these corporate engagements, either in terms of pilot orders, cash grants, mentorship opportunities, acceleration, or incubation. To run you through a case study of how WhatsApp run this was, these are the 5 sectors in which they were looking for solutions, or the leading startups: financial, education, rural economy, health, and the likes. We received over 1,700 entries for this. This was a huge, this was quite popular among the community, and about 1,700 entries had applied. Out of those 1,700, top 10 pitched to a jury comprising of the who's and who's of the startup ecosystem, and the top 5 winners got cash, again a grant of $50,000 each. So about $250,000 of cash prizes were up for grabs right through this WhatsApp Grand Challenge. And after the Grand Challenge, they also followed up with free Facebook ad credits for linked to the WhatsApp business account. So they also, they were so overwhelmed with the response, and they, asked from the ecosystem that they also topped it up with the free ad credits for WhatsApp business account as well. Yeah. Moving on, like I mentioned, even if you can't get recognized, or if you do not fall into the criteria of the definition of a startup, you can always register yourself on the website and avail of these benefits around legal, cloud telephony, application-based services, and digital cloud credits as well. Sorry about this. And avail of these pro bono resources. So the society has now come back to give back to the startups, and provide them the initial bit that they need to start their business. So we have a couple of partners that you can see on your screen, and you can seek services free of cost from them. For a lot of startups in the social impact space, or for the startups that have government as the end market use, we engage with a lot of government departments as well to bridge this gap between startups and working with the government departments. A few of the names of the ministries we've closely worked with in the past are there on your screen. But to give you a specific example, and an example that's very close to my heart as well, is that we'd worked very closely with CRPF recently. They came to us with 3 specific problem statements which their soldiers were facing. One is that they wanted instant blood clot solutions for soldiers who go out there. And because there was no solution if anything happens when they're out there. Second, the shoes that they had needed specific kind of spikes. The current spike shoes weren't enough for them to survive the tough terrains. Third, they wanted drone-based solutions for surveillance around the areas. So these very niche problem statements to which they had come for us, and we opened this call for application again. We asked the startups that if you're doing something, just apply. If you're not doing something, see if something could be developed to help the community. And these solutions are now being currently tested by the soldiers themselves. Some more examples out there on the screen for you to observe. Lastly, this is how, or where we stand. The network consists of Startup India is connected with incubators to help you get incubation opportunities. There are a bunch of investors. There's fund of funds under SIDBI. There are national R&D labs from which research is coming out. We work very closely with states, individual innovators, or accelerators, corporates, and the likes. That's about it. I think I wanted to end my presentation on time so that I could take more questions from you if you have any. And Anshul, that was it from my side. These are the ways in which you can connect with us. I'm Aastha Grover. I head the Startup India team at Invest India. Happy to share my coordinates or my LinkedIn details with all of you through FundTQ.
Sure. Thanks, Aastha. I think it was very descriptive presentation. Even I was not aware of such kind of incentives and initiatives Startup India has taken. And I think the audience will be benefited a lot from this. And now, I'll quickly take up a couple of questions, and then we can ask about how to connect with you. So the first question was by Umang. He's asking how technology is playing a vital role in transforming the startup ecosystem with Startup India.
So, I mentioned this right from, from the first few slides only. Tech is the backbone of innovation. Tech is what is changing the entire landscape. In fact, a research was done by Barclays, which found that if they work with startups, they can produce, any solution 3x at 3x faster and 5x times cheaper. So that's how startups are today disrupting the tech world itself. And I mentioned that, every corporate today is trying to innovate. There have been multiple surveys done in the past by KPMG, by PwC and the likes, saying that 80% of the C-suite executives also are looking to innovate and work with startups. So it's only possible because of the tech disruptions which startups are bringing out today. And tech is everywhere, like we speak. Even at the time of COVID, startups were more agile to make ventilators, to make ventilator support equipments, to make handheld devices that could be used or plugged with stethoscopes, which doctors were using to protect them and to contaminate them less. So tech is everywhere as we speak, and this is the backbone of all the work that we do, of all the activities that are driven by Startup India.
Sure. So Priya is asking, what are the couple of success stories? I think you've mentioned a couple of them in the fundraising part.
Yeah, so about from 300 lists, if you see, the list is also available on the website. So the government is fairly transparent in terms of highlighting, who has got the incentive or not. But if I have to take you through a very specific case, there is this woman entrepreneur based from Ahmedabad. She got associated with us when back in 2017, when we had launched the Indo-Israel Innovation Bridge. At that time, she was at her research phase, and Indo-Israel was actually looking at researchers, innovators who in the sectors of health, agri, and water. She had an agri-based solution where, and she pitched for this. Her solution got selected. She got a cash grant and was felicitated directly by the Prime Minister himself. That gave her a big boost to continue her business. She got her entity incorporated. Post that, she has applied for multiple benefits under the ecosystem. She got acceleration opportunity with Yes Bank. She emerged as the winner of an Integrate to Innovate challenge that we did with Schneider, Exxon, and Mahindra. So it's just the start boost that she got, and from then on she just kept on participating in multiple programs hosted. She made use of the resource partner offerings that were there on the portal, and she just was in touch with us, and wherever she needed support, the team was helping. And now she's a very well funded startup doing good for herself.
Sure, I think
Environment solutions for all those who want to.
Yes, I think it's very helpful. Okay, so Utsav is asking one question: how can anyone partner with Startup India Forum to help startups? What all are included in such partnership?
Okay, so it depends on what you're offering to the ecosystem is. You could, if you think that you have enough knowledge to be passed on as a mentor, you could create a profile as a mentor on the Startup India Hub. Once the profile is vetted and approved from the backend, you can start receiving connection requests or approach startups to help them. Second, if you have a dedicated program that you feel would be of interest to startups. So for example, a lot of pro bono offerings that I mentioned about on our website, be it legal or telephony services, most of them are startups themselves. So they turned out big and they want to now help the community. So there are partnered services on our website which explains this process on the ways in which you can engage with the community, and it's a simple form that you have to fill. Once that form is evaluated by the team, someone within the team will get in touch with you to get more details, know more about what you want to do, and if they feel value in it, we're happy to onboard you as a partner.
Sure. Kapil has a question. What are the incentives for international startups looking to expand in India, and what would be the process for them?
Okay. So Kapil, this would be a part of the international bridges that I was talking about. On the website, if you look at, even on our website today, we have some traffic from international users as well. There are 400 entrepreneur profiles of international users. What they can do is, how they can leverage the platform is by creating a profile simply, as it is not, the portal, it does not restrict you basis the location. You can fill in your profile, you can access the network, you can access startups for technologies that you need, you can access some of the pro bono offerings as well. However, to avail all of the benefits which the government of India has to offer in terms of tax exemptions, in terms of fund of funds, you have to be an entity incorporated in India. But for any support that you need to access the India market, our team is there. and all you need to do is just apply or just email us, and we answer all our emails ourselves. It's not a outsourced agency. We want to be close to as many queries as possible and be in touch with the ground reality. So we take on this on us, and everyone in the team facilitates and handholds startups.
Perfect. So there is one more question by Shreya. Uh, is there any specific startup you are looking for in the agriculture space or the agri-tech space globally?
Okay. So how we worked with agri-tech startups in the past is, one, at an international level when we did the Indo-Israel Innovation Bridge. As you may know, Israel is very strong with the agri-innovations that they produce. So we thought that the best of this learning from there could be combined, and solutions were invited from researchers and startups that were felicitated not just with cash grants, but a ecosystem exchange visit as well, to learn from the best practices of the Israeli ecosystem. Likewise, Israeli startups had come to India for a co-creation summit where they could learn more about the ecosystem here. Second is, we work very closely with the Ministry of Agriculture for an agriculture grant challenge. What that challenge did was it gave specific problem statements which the ministry was facing. For example, predicting the prices of food crops, e-mandi, how do you simplify the logistics process, testing the quality of soil and the food packets the soil kits that were there. So these were areas of intervention where they needed support from the ecosystem, and they had come up with areas inviting for applications from startups. About 1,800 startups had applied during this agriculture grant challenge. The ones that were at a ready to be deployed stage were also given mentorship workshops. So we had done zone-wise mentorship classes with the scientists from Agri Ministry and with all the entrepreneurs, to help them understand what exactly is the ministry looking for, how is it that they could fine tune the solution to fit the requirement, or pivot if needed to make the solution more adaptable. Finally, a bunch of 20 startups were incubated by the two incubator partners we had onboarded, and they're now being pilot tested with the ministry.
Okay, that is great. So I think that's all. And the last question is, Asta, if any of us would like to connect with the Startup India team or you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so very accessible to all. We have a central helpline or an email ID that was there on the last screen of my presentation as well. It's dipp-startups@nic.in. You can just touch base with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm very active there. Otherwise, on this email ID also, the entire team is very responsive. I can leave my email ID with you, Anchal, as well, and you can share with those who need it.
Sure. Sure, Asta. I think it was wonderful session with you, Asta, and it was very insightful to know about Startup India and the incentives and especially the defense part that you acknowledged there. And lovely speaking to you. Thank you so much, Asta.